Welcome everyone to Spoiler Warning, featuring myself, Tom Colohue. We are live and we are talking wrestling news, and we have, as you might expect, quite a bit to share. We're particularly focusing on what's happening after SummerSlam. We are starting with our top story, which will be what's next for the returning Roman Reigns and the Bloodline. We will also be touching on PWInsider, confirming our report about Damian Priest, Rhea Ripley and Roman Reigns now being on the face side. We transition from there into Judgement Day. What's next? What's the Civil War going to look like? Who's in trouble? Who's still actually in the group? We move over to the situation with CM Punk, Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre. One of them wants to move on, the other two do not. We'll be talking Logan Paul and a debate he got into backstage about some stiff strikes from LA Knight. We're going to talk Triple H and his reception, his response to a question on Stephanie McMahon right after the show in the press conference. We're going to talk a little bit about a bit of a meltdown that Dave Meltzer's having, as well as information on the Joe Gacy interview and some concerns that WWE has with the incoming Wyatt 6. We're going to discuss why Nia Jax won gold and who it's the biggest benefit for, hint, not Nia Jax, a little bit as to why Sami Zayn and Bron Breakker ended up being a shorter match than was originally intended. And yes, as pure rumour killer, we're going to be talking throughout. I did see a tweet stating, and over 800,000 people saw this, that the WWE wanted to go back to being called the WWF. 100% false. Completely untrue. Not a single word of it correct. I'll be detailing that in more depth and at more length, but just to be clear, not a single word of that is true. Okay, we have 69 people watching. Nice. Only the 22 likes so far. Let's keep that rolling. 3 more gets us to 25. Every thumbs up does really help the growth of the channel. Does mean more people here, which means more people find us, more people enhancing the chat rate, more people hitting like, and before you know it, this channel's doing brilliantly. Over the course of SummerSlam weekend, we achieved more than 14,000 views, which is a truly incredible number for a channel of this size. So thank you to everyone who is involved with that. Let's see where people are with the chat and just catch up with everyone. What have we got in our latest comment there? Gotcha. Okay, so scrolling down to this bit. Welcome to all of you. Thank you very much for joining me. Spider-Boss asks what's next for Sami Zayn. More on that shortly. And Sean says the first hour tonight's Raw is commercial free. Yes, it is. They're trying to capitalise on the big success that was last night's show. Spider-Boss says even before Roman made his entrance, Pat McAfee spoiled who was going to be Roman's target. He can't have spoiled it. He didn't know Roman was there. The announced team in its entirety did not know that Roman was there. Hello Ed, welcome mate. 87 people watching now, 44 likes. You see how the likes spike and then so does the viewership. Keep that rolling. Bayley, we do not have news on Jacob Fatu just yet. I don't know if it's an injury. We'll see how it goes. John says, according to Wrestling Observer Daily Updates, Logan Paul was injured during his match with LA Knight. More on that shortly. Mick says, wow, the wall. Yeah, clean. Hope you're good, Tom. Doing well, thank you. King Alice says, Tom, I think Roman should be an anti-hero more than the face. He's a face. Rosal says, hello, Tom. Seated for spoiler warning. Welcome to the show. Michael says, when is Uncle Howdy's first match, do you think? I think they'll take their time with this one until he's ready to step in and absolutely demolish a Chad Gable. Khalid says, so glad my tribal chief Roman is back. Throw it up, mate. Robin Dave says, hi Tom, how are you doing? The best match on the card for me was Gunther and Damian. There were some very good cards that very good matches that I very much enjoyed. For me, it was Sami versus Bron. Spider-Boss says, I think Tiffany benefits more of Nia as women's champion because when Tiffany cashes in on Nia, people will cheer for Tiffany. There's a reason they won't. Chris says, what is next for Bayley? More on that later. Ed says, hey Tom, what's next for Bayley? More on that later. Valencia says, hi Tom, hope you're well and the house is coming on. It's going on pretty well so far. I'm happy with it. Admittedly, I've paid attention to a corner so far, but it's a good corner and I'm enjoying it. Khalid says, do you think we hear from Damian and Rhea tonight? Yes, I do. Jay Quick says, hey Tom, been a while. Just watching you as I recover from being live at SummerSlam. Good to see you, mate. One of the OGs of the house. Welcome to the show. Bliss Gamer says, why is 6 a main eventing? That is indeed what is being rumoured. Ed says, WWE cannot legally go back to WWE if they lost the lawsuit to the Panda people. They did indeed. And if there's one thing I can say with certainty, it's that I kind of support the Pandas in that one. You know? Something about it just makes me feel like I absolutely do support it. Now says, hello Tom, anything on Dragon Lee? Nothing to report at this point. Dragon Lee's star has dipped slightly, primarily because he was brought in almost entirely to fill time when they believed the roster wasn't big enough or exciting enough. Now they believe it is. Yes, it does, Swan. Ishi says, hello Tom, hope you're okay. Doing well, thank you Ishi, welcome to the show. Kieran says, watch that bloody pig. Chris said, loving the content Tom, Dave sent me your way. Thank you very much for letting me know that, Chris. A lot of respect for Wrestling Days and what he does. I can't keep up with what he's doing over there, and I'm a little jealous of him, what can I say? Spiderbell says, if I can suggest something to Dominik, I would tell him run. There's an angry Aussie mammy that is coming for him. Yeah, but he likes that. Jason says, hello everyone. Welcome, Jason. She says, Joe Gacy's the last VHS tape. I've not seen Nikki Cross's, but that may be a show that I missed with the move. Michael says, hi Tom. Welcome, Michael. Valencia says, looking forward to seeing the Wyatts wrestle tonight, staying up to watch it. You're brave. Spider-Man said, I thought Gunther was going to win clean until I saw Finn Balor. Yeah, Gunther does feel quite generic to me lately, and a large part of it is stuff like that. Hopefully, tonight, that can change. King Azza says, Tom, do you think they should do Cody and Roman versus Solo and Jacob or Tama Tonga at Bash at Berlin? No, I will talk about that more. It's our top story. Sean says, I had Bayley retaining and Alexa attacking her after the match. I did not have Alexa returning, as I did make clear. Angel says, a Liv, Dom and Finn's group going to be another Judgement Day or a brand new faction? Judgement Day is dead. More on that later. Michael says, do you think we'll get something big after the Wyatt 6 match? Maybe we get the full Uncle Howdy entrance? Maybe. We'll see how the match goes. Carmelina says, do you think Jey Uso is on Raw today? There are rumours of that. The other Mike says, did you like Solo's first main event? I don't think he passed the test, he's just not that guy. I think he wrestled exactly like Roman did, and he was okay. Rickon says, Fightful reported WWE has their eye on Zilla Fatu, and do you think he'll be on Roman's side? Having your eye on someone does not mean that they've been signed. It's, if anything, a bit of a nothing report. Marcel says, I'm hoping for Rhea versus Dom tonight. Me too, to be fair. Sean says, Buddy Matthews tweeted he wanted to help Rhea. Why wouldn't you? And Sai says, evening all, 257 days until WrestleMania. G. Griffith says, I'm a big fan of WWE. Cool. Kelly says, I like how Michael Cole swore at Dominik. Swearing, I tell you. Ishi says, after the Wyatt 6 did a tribute to Bray Wyatt, Dallas staying WWE after. I don't know what you're saying there, Ishi, to be honest. What tribute? Joey says, hey Tom, do you have any news on Becky's contract status? I've already updated every piece of information I have on Becky Lynch. A deal has been agreed to, it's just not been formally signed. When she's ready to return, the deal is waiting for her. Eric says, good evening Tom, how you doing? Glad to see the wall behind you painted. Got tired of seeing that grey concrete wall. Wasn't grey, it was kind of reddish maroon. Either way, it's better now, isn't it? I'm needing to work out what to do here, but hopefully it'll be decent. Ian says, good evening, can't wait to see what develops from tonight's VHS. Hopefully we then get more of Gacy and the character I've been waiting for. Hashtag watch the pig. Indeed, Ian, indeed. Robin Day says, let's hope fans don't boo this babyface Roman. They won't. James says, anything on Becky's supposed retirement post on IG? I can confirm Becky Lynch has not retired from wrestling. That is not the case. That was, if anything, a celebration to draw extra attention to the documentary about her from the WWE. She is not retired. Juan says, hey Tom, the Becky Lynch documentary is amazing. Then after, she posted a cryptic message. Everyone was like, oh, AEW bound, work. Wasn't even a work. She just put something in the past tense. It's not a big deal. Joey said, do you see Roman working Bash in Berlin? Yes, I do. Ishi says, after they finish Bray's story, will Uncle Howdy leave or stay in WWE? I think Uncle Howdy as a character won't last very long. Scorpio says, your live keeps freezing. Is anyone else encountering that problem? Are we freezing a lot? I don't have a notification of any dropped frames. I can see my CPU there. Is anyone else on the YouTube side experiencing freezes or dropped frames? Joey says, Becky's IG post the other day led to people thinking she may be retiring. She isn't. Michael says, I hope the VHS is amazing like all the other ones. One has pigs. Watch the pig. Dax says, hey Tom. Hello, Dax. Khalid said, Dominik is in big trouble tonight. Very excited for Rhea to confront Dom. Sean says, I don't think Judgement Day is done. I believe it will continue without Damian, and also Finn and JD are still tag team champions. Joey says, what matches do you see happening in Bash at Berlin so far? PLE Wednesday, this Wednesday. We'll cover that in more detail. Right, so as regards freezes, David doesn't, Brad doesn't, Joey says no, you're good. No from Spare, no from Juan. Lovely. Okay, so Scorpio, it might just be yourself, unfortunately. Spider-Bell says, I hope Rhea beats up Dom tonight. Thank you guys for letting me know that there's no problems coming through. Brilliant. Brilliant. And thank you, Eric, for clarifying that. Hector says, to your knowledge, Tom, was the way Roman returned always the original plan? Seemed kind of underwhelming. I wonder if Jacob's injury impacted that. To my knowledge, this was pretty much exactly how Roman was expected to return. There was no Paul Heyman after all, though I do think there are more players who'll be debuting shortly. Ishii says, will Uncle Howdy ever get dark? Dark is a good question and not very well defined. Michael says, maybe the Wyatts go after Dom Dom? Maybe. Danny says, good evening, what a great SummerSlam. I quite enjoyed it. Craig, thank you very kindly for subscribing on the YouTube side. You'll get notifications every time we go live for spoiler warning on Mondays and Fridays. Quick thing before we go to our top story, there will not be a spoiler warning this coming Friday. I'm at a wedding, so there won't be a spoiler warning this coming Friday. Okay? Be aware of that. I will simply be a little too busy to be up this late, basically, and unable to find the facilities to create a show worthy of you guys. So, let's start with our top story, which is on the Bloodline. The return of Roman Reigns and what comes next. We have 57 likes, 3 more gets us to 60, and we can keep that ball rolling because we'll have 139 viewers right now, which means less than half have hit that thumb. If you can give me that thumbs up, you'll guarantee that viewership goes up closer to 150. And then it just keeps rolling. It's a thumb roll. It's like a snowball, but with thumbs. It's a fumble. It's a fumble. Weird things. Top story. The Bloodline. The OG Bloodline is due to return. Roman Reigns was, of course, the first, but he will be far from the last. There is talk of Jey Uso and Sami Zayn, being traded over to SmackDown, though we'll see how temporarily this is. Jey Uso is expected to work with Roman Reigns once again, as will Jimmy Uso when he's ready to return. There is talk of War Games. I cannot confirm this at this point, but I'm confident we will see the Bloodline in War Games this year as Bloodline versus Bloodline. There are still other members of the new Bloodline to appear. But this is the beginning of a brand new civil war. Roman will extend an olive branch on SmackDown, I'm sure. Cody Rhodes is not quite done with all of them. My sort of fantasy booking is still that at Bash at Berlin we'll see Cody versus Roman one last time, but that's where Solo turns on Roman. This is building towards a WrestleMania match where Roman Reigns puts over Solo Sikoa. We're also building towards a future where Roman Reigns works with Jacob Fatu, because while Solo Sikoa has got a lot of love over the last 2 years, his elevation is only to create space where he used to be. That space is to be filled by Jacob Fatu. As regards Roman's return, this was roughly what was planned. Jey Uso, I'm told, was not actually in the building, so was not involved in the plans, but it was going to be Avengers 2.0. Roman Reigns matches will be pretty horrifically overbooked for a while now, and you know what? I'm enjoying it. Roman Reigns was only actually backstage during the main event. He arrived very late in the show, though he did arrive in Cleveland a little earlier. He flew in privately and stayed in his SUV until called for, at which point he walked directly to Gorilla without even hiding his face. Spoiler warning did report 2 months ago that Roman would be back for SummerSlam, yet I am spotting a victory lap by other mainstream publications at the moment, which is a shame, but it is what it is. If you want the news first, be sure to hit subscribe, and of course hit like as well while you're here on this here channel. Before we go into that victory lap though, the plan is War Games. The plan is OG Bloodline versus New Bloodline, and the plan is for Roman Reigns to step up to Solo Sikoa as soon as humanly possible. We'll catch up with the chat, and then we'll go on to more on Roman, more on the Judgement Day, Punk, Rollins, and Drew McIntyre. Logan Paul getting into an argument backstage over some stiff strikes. Triple H talking about Stephanie McMahon's involvement in the WWE, a Meltzer meltdown, Joe Gacy's interview as part of the Wyatt Six, why Nia Jax won the gold, why Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker's match was so short as well. We just hit 156 viewers, 73 likes, 2 more to 75. Keep them rolling, guys, keep them rolling. Let's catch up with the chat. Joey says, with Jacob's injury kayfabe, I don't know at this point. There are rumours that it is, there are rumours that it isn't. If it isn't, then... if it is, then well done him. Very convincing. Ishii says, what do you think will happen with the Wyatt 6 after the interviews are done? They'll be wrestling. Counterfeit says, who do you think Nia faces in Berlin if she defends her title? I don't think she will. I think we'll see another Liv versus Rhea match for Bash in Berlin, and then I think the Nia Jax match will come afterwards. Jason says, is WWE letting people use more swear words on PLEs as of late? Yes. Steve says, Judgement Day might be dead, but where does JD McDonough's loyalties lie? Will he and Finn slow build a new faction? His loyalty is 100% with Finn Balor, and only Finn Balor. Counterfeit, I very much enjoyed this year's SummerSlam, I'll say that. One says, congratulations, Tom, thanks for the heads up. No worries, no worries. It's not my wedding. It's not my wedding, just to be clear. Daniela says, hi, Tom, any ideas as to why Nakamura's not been on SmackDown since being drafted there in the draft? Because he was brought in to essentially lose on live matches. So he loses on live shows. That's what he does. Rickon says, are we getting Rhea and Jay versus Dom and Liv? Not yet, though maybe eventually. Hector says, do you think we will ever find who are Cody's friends that he doesn't know about, as mentioned by Arn, or will it go unsolved like Shane's lockbox? I'm pretty confident it'd be Roman. You can see people already putting them up. Razar says, Logan Paul posted he's suing LA Knight. I'm assuming this is part of a storyline. More on that later. And Danny says, smashing the likes. Thank you, Danny. Spider-Boss says, Liv has kissed Dom twice now. How far they can go to keep the rivalry with Rhea? Just long enough that one of them wins it. Joey says it's a plan for the Judgement Day to split into a new faction. More on the Judgement Day shortly. Noob says, hello, Mr. Colohue. How are you doing today? Doing very well, thank you, Noob. Welcome to the show. Chris says, does Judgement Day get a new name? I would imagine they'll drop the Judgement Day name. More on that shortly. Dad says, Tom, do you think Seth will be in action tonight? Also, when do you think Jimmy will be back? More on that shortly. As regards Jimmy, when he's ready. Spider-Boss says, Waller and Fury were traded to Raw. I think Jey Uso and Sami Zayn are going to SmackDown. Was it a full trade or is it a temporary appearance? Roberto does not like the Civil War. Unfortunately, Roberto, you're about to get two of them at once. Joey says, Jacob Fatu versus Roman feels like a bigger match than Solo. Shouldn't. The other Mike says, Reigns versus Solo should be on a B-level PLE, not WrestleMania. Hey, John, nice to see you. Roberto doesn't think Solo should be in main events. Well, he wouldn't be at WrestleMania against Roman. Or he says they did do the Nikki Cross tape, just didn't mention it was her, similar to how they did Dexter Loomis's video. Thank you, Ori. Good to see you. Good to see you. One says, let's get 100 thumbs up, guys. We're on 79 right now, so you're doing pretty good for that. Spider-Boss says, I think Solo Sikoa already turned on Roman. Since Solo took out Jimmy Uso and Paul Heyman, I don't see Roman versus Cody free before next year. I think they're going to do what they need to do to buy time, but we'll find out pretty quickly what's going to happen. King Azza says, is The Rock going to get involved in the Bloodline story soon? Not soon, no. Sean says, who do you think will be in the women's War Games? I do think Damage Control will be back in action. Robin Dave says, how long before we get Jey Uso in the storyline? Once the storylines are in place, Jey Uso will appear. Marcel says, do you think The Rock is going to be involved in the War Games match or will he come back later? I expect him to be back at a similar time, but I don't expect him to be involved. Ishii says, where will they be doing their promos? What do you mean? Spider-Man says, I think at Bash at Berlin we could see a mixed tag match, Rhea and Priest versus Dom and Liv. That'd be a good spot for it. Danielle says, that's a sad reality of it. Sad reality of what, Daniela? Joey says, Arn Anderson back in WWE or is that a one-off thing? It was a one-off thing, but it could become a longer thing. Michael says, Sami Uso does have a nice ring to it. True. Zach says, watch the pig. Counterfeit says, could we still get Rock versus Roman and when? Yes, and when they're ready to. At the moment, there doesn't seem to be any real plan for Roman versus The Rock. I don't want to make you cry, Roberto. I just don't want to be wrong either. Marcel says, I want to see a WWE Bash in Berlin Rhea and Priest versus Dom and Liv. Rhea and Priest definitely works. Spider-Boss says, it was funny that Rey Mysterio posted on social media. Dom always turns on the people that care the most about him. Yeah, I mean, pardon me, Rhea loved him enough to try and kill him. Several times. Marcel says, watch the pig. Ian says, are we going to get Bullet Club 2.0? Nope, we already had it several times. Danielle says, regarding Nakamura, it used to be a stop-start. Gotcha. Stop-start. Top-star. Yeah, unfortunately, never quite hit the heights that WWE were expecting because they didn't book him to. Angel says Cena versus Gunther at WrestleMania should happen during Cena's retirement tour for him to win his 17th title during this run. That will not be happening. Ishii says, where will the Wyatt 6 do their promos? Wherever they want. It'll largely be done via backstage stuff, though. Sean says, do you think this Rhea Liv feud goes until WrestleMania where Rhea wins the title? I think that will be slightly too long considering it started at the beginning of the season, but we'll see how it plays out. Spiderboss says, since Liv helped Finn Balor and JD to win the tag team titles, I think Rhea may cost the tag team titles to Finn and JD. And John says, do you think Alexa Bliss is returning tonight or near future, Tom? No. Michael says, the Wyatt Six have a new X post. It's a photo of the old Wyatt family and the Wyatt Six. They have the dates of both debuts. Next piece of news then. Firstly, I just want to send a, speaking of mainstream publications doing a victory lap, I want to send a thank you to PWInsider for confirming what I've been reporting for the last 2 months, that Damian Priest, Rhea Ripley and Roman Reigns are all now on the face side of the overall topography. This was also reported several months ago here on Spoiler Warning, so thank you for the confirmation, PWInsider. What's next for Judgment Day? Well, you guessed it, Civil War. Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest will be on one side, we will see Finn Balor and JD McDonough on the other, and a wildcard element of Dominik Mysterio and Liv Morgan in the middle of it for now. There is a connection between Finn Balor and Liv Morgan that will need to be explored, and that should be explored relatively soon. But what I will say is that right now Finn Balor is solely in charge of the remnants of Judgment Day. Damian Priest will have revenge on his mind, and Rhea Ripley will be working with a different section entirely. So it is in many ways Priest versus Balor and JD McDonough, Rhea versus Liv and Dominik, meaning that several people, JD McDonough and Dominik Mysterio, will kind of just be there. This is leading towards a solo run for Rhea Ripley, where she will stand alone as a face, and that will be of huge benefit to her. They're essentially trying to separate them because they believe their work is done. Damian Priest is a big star, Rhea Ripley is one of the top stars in wrestling, so they believe their work is done. This also allows a big feud between Finn Balor and Damian Priest, and it does also allow the possibility at some point of Finn Balor challenging for championships again. For the moment there's a civil war, but Judgment Day has some more changes before things settle down. I'd imagine both sides will drop the name Judgment Day and just focus on their teams and tag teams that they have at the moment. Plenty more news still to come. We're going to be talking Punk, Rollins and Drew McIntyre. Logan Paul getting into a bit of an argument backstage over some strikes from LA Knight. Triple H's conversations about Stephanie McMahon's role in the WWE. Dave Meltzer having a bit of a meltdown. Joe Gacy's interview as part of the Wyatt Six. Why Nia Jax won the gold. And why the Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker match was shorter than it was expected to be. We have 158 people watching at current and 87 likes. 3 more guesses to 90, and then we are steamrolling towards 100. 100 is always a hell of a number to get to. If you're new to this channel, if you're particularly just interested in this news, why don't you hit subscribe? We have 6,618 subscribers at current, and we are working hard to continue to gain. That many thousands of people have decided that this channel is worth their time because we tend to report news way before you'll find it somewhere else. Months ago we were talking about Roman Reigns returning, and right now we're talking about the match with Solo Sikoa. Months ago we explained that there were separate factions emerging in Judgment Day ready for when it broke up, and a long time ago we reported Cody versus Solo Sikoa would be the main event of SummerSlam. We reported that about a month and a half ago before Money in the Bank. So I'll keep going through the chat, I'll keep going through the news, and we'll see where we are at the end of it. Counterfeit says, where do you see Chamber for 2025 being at? I'd imagine there'll be an announcement relatively soon. Raymond says, hello Tom, great to see you. By the way, watch the pig, always watch the pig. Spiderboss says, I think Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley should end either on Bad Blood or at the Royal Rumble next year. Liv's title reign hasn't been good. It will be better now that Rhea Ripley's back. What I will say, as I in fact said, I believe on Friday, Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan and CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre are currently battling it out for the right to be in a Hell in a Cell at Bad Blood. Like I said, great show. Acknowledged from Indiana. Appreciate you, mate. Joey says, where does Carlito fit into all of this? He doesn't. Eric said, the Damage Control still heels or are they baby faces? They're heels. Xavier also says, what about Carlito? What about him? Hey Moxie, mate. It's the background, I promise you. Spider-Man says Priest looked at a smart babyface when he watched the replay when Finn Balor got involved. I did enjoy that. Counterfeit says, when will Bianca go heel? More on that later. Moxie thinks that Raw is a must watch. I mean, there's a reason they've given you the first hour commercial free. Ian says, I hope the graffiti wasn't Liv and turns out to be the Wyatt 6. Joey says, do you think Ilya will be Braun's first feud for the IC title? Yes, I do. Ishii says, will the Wyatt 6 be done with Chad after tonight? No, not yet. Nathan says, hi Tom and everyone. Hope everyone had a great day, and you may. Joey says, Carlito just going to be watching. Well, technically he's Dominik Mysterio's buddy. So if people aren't too happy with Dominik Mysterio, that might be why. Sean says, I believe this was during SummerSlam week. Tiffany was asked about the rumours of Becky burying her during their feud. Tiffany said Becky didn't bury her and made her more of a superstar and called Becky one of the GOATs. That was this week at the media, and yes, that is absolutely correct, as I said at the time. Nathan says, I'm happy my tribal chief is back. Spider-Boss says, Liv vs Rhea in Hell in a Cell makes sense because that avoids Dominik getting involved. Moxie says, I was of the assumption that Drew vs Punk should be in Hell in a Cell and Liv vs Rhea should be an I Quit match. Caden says, any info on how the Wyatts will be presented tonight? A little bit, still to come. We haven't quite got to it yet, but we're getting there as quickly as we can. Jason, you're not the only one I'm sure who doesn't like Joe Hendry. I enjoy his work and his self-promotion, but I can understand that not everyone is for everyone. Right, next piece of news is as regards CM Punk, Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre. Now, the CM Punk vs Seth Rollins feud was originally planned for this year's WrestleMania, as reported exclusively right here on an actual Survivor Series watch party. CM Punk made his debut and I said, that's going to be the match against Seth Rollins for the championship at WrestleMania, because I had that news by then. Unfortunately, it didn't happen due to an injury to CM Punk and also in many ways due to several recurring injuries to Seth Rollins. Instead, they pivoted to Drew McIntyre, which suited him because he wanted championships in order to sign a new contract. While Drew McIntyre will consider his work done, having pinned Punk 1-2-3, CM Punk might disagree. That said, CM Punk's head has already been turned. The matchup with Rollins is back on the agenda for next year's WrestleMania, and it seems like Seth and Punk want that to happen. Now, Drew McIntyre is going to want to move on. He's going to want to focus on Gunther, but Punk's not going to let him go. Drew McIntyre versus Gunther seems set in stone, but not conclusive just yet, because that's another match I'm expecting for WrestleMania. Meanwhile, Rollins, by being the special guest referee, was given a chance to rest and recover from some of the injury issues that he's had, essentially using him in a wrestling ring a lot more sparingly. He did have to drop down every now and then to count, but you'll note that he actually used that, and there weren't many attempted pinfalls during the match to save Seth's knees. I expect Seth Rollins has some unfinished business with both men, even though he's definitely hotter against CM Punk. I expect a triple threat down the line to kill time until WrestleMania. Before we get to the Punk-Rollins match, Triple H promised both men the moment CM Punk signed. Ooh. Joey says, do you think the Wyatt 6 will target Braun Strowman after Gable? No. Sean says Triple H also confirmed that Seth vs Punk was a plan for WrestleMania during the WrestleMania documentary. Yep, always good to have that confirmation. Funnily enough, a lot of confirmation of my reporting has come from Triple H. More on that later. Counterfeit says, I'm assuming that Punk vs Drew could be the blood match and Rhea vs Liv could be a Hell in a Cell match. I mean, if there's a blood match, it's going to be Cody Rhodes, surely. Spider-Boss says, CM Punk said many times that Drew would not be world champion while he is there. Well, he might have to be firmly distracted in order to make that happen. John, I don't see Alexa returning tonight. That's what I'm saying. Next up, Logan Paul. After the match between Logan Paul and LA Knight for the United States Championship, there was a heated conversation backstage between Logan Paul and several members of the WWE staff, particularly relatively high-up people such as Triple H. He was concerned about an element of stiffness that LA Knight was using and that it could potentially have seen him seriously injured. He actively complained about a potential injury and got himself checked out, hence the report that he may be injured. Now, Logan Paul at the moment feels very unwanted in WWE, and the main reason for this is that a lot of people in WWE don't want Logan Paul there. As such, he's likely to take a break from wrestling while Triple H lets the whole situation calm down, and while Logan Paul feels confident again in turning on replies on all of his tweets. As regards LA Knight, the plan was always for him to win the championship. He did go a little stiffer. To my knowledge, the situation between Logan Paul and LA Knight has now calmed down, and Logan Paul did not complain to LA Knight directly. If the situation has now calmed, we may be seeing an injury angle / storyline, and that works pretty well for me. But to be clear, heated words happened backstage at SummerSlam. Razal says, so Seth versus Punk will probably not be for the title. Does that mean it won't main event one of the nights of WrestleMania now? Seems unlikely, no. Chris says, who will the Wyatts turn their attention to next? We'll find out shortly. Joey says, do you see Punk and Drew having another match at Bash, or will it be a triple threat? I don't see him having another match directly. I see them having several matches, but over the course of the next few months. Good evening, Chris. Not at this point in time as regards Jacob Fatu's injury. Whether it's a real injury or not, I cannot confirm just yet. And Razar gives a shout out to LA Knight, says I like him even more. John, the near future is a seriously questionable phrase. Basically, you're asking me for a guess, and I don't have that information. Clinton, thank you very kindly for becoming a subscriber on the YouTube side. You'll get a notification every time we go live with our Monday and Friday spoiler warnings, as well as our Wednesday video, PLE Wednesdays, and our Sunday video, WTF Wrestling. So please do check those out as soon as you can. Spider-Boss says, I watched Bayley's interview Inside the Ropes. Bayley said there was so much history to tell with Damage Control, but WWE changed plans. Made sense since WWE barely gave TV time to Bayley before and after WrestleMania. If you recall, I was reporting around the time of the draft that we would see a continuation and we'd see Bayley versus Dakota Kai. Plans did indeed change. Sean says, PWInsider reported both Roman and AJ Styles are scheduled to be at SmackDown this Friday. Marcel says, what do you think is the main event of Clash, Roman versus Cody? Joey says, what will Tonga Loa's role be in the Bloodline? Feels like he's the meme of the group. Well, eventually, he has to do something right, and we'll see how that goes. Jason says, what do you think will be the big women's matches at WrestleMania? I'm going to do week after this one. So this week will be Bash at Berlin match predictions in PLE Wednesday. Next week, it'll be a looking forward to WrestleMania situation. Carlos says, will Randy Orton challenge Gunther at Berlin for his rematch since the screw job at King of the Ring? They're on different brands. I don't know how successful that's going to be. Spider-Boss says, many people on social media say, I want to be Dom. I wouldn't want to be Dom now that Mummy's on her brutality tour. True. John, no need to apologise. Just be aware that I can't really guess on it. Questions are the lifeblood of this show. Spoiler warning does not work without questions. It does not work without conversation. It does not work without debate. You guys not only boost the chat rate by talking, especially when you talk amongst yourselves, you also give me something to bounce off. There were times when all I had was the news and a script and I'd read it out and it'd take 10-15 minutes and that was it. It was over. Nowadays, it regularly go for an hour. Questions are a good thing. Please never apologise for asking questions. Counterfeit says, I also think, Tom, that the next Clash of the Castle should be in Ireland. Which one? Michael says, things got heated between two people in WWE. Funny that's not going all over Twitter like it does with AEW. Well, it might be because I'm reporting it. And as you know, when I report something, it doesn't get sensationalised in the same way. After the SummerSlam show had completed, Triple H was asked in a press conference about the presence of Stephanie McMahon, and he did state that she doesn't currently have an official role in the WWE. As previously reported on this channel right after WrestleMania, she is working with the WWE, but in a more unofficial talent relations role, particularly for the women's division. She is a point of contact that the women in the locker room are very much enjoying having. Triple H confirming that while she hasn't got an official role, she does have an unofficial role, is the first evidence of this thus far. So once again, Triple H confirming my reporting. I did expect this to start popping off sooner rather than later, but Stephanie McMahon hasn't been so visible, and it turns out, because it's mostly in the women's division and a lot less women talk to mainstream media, the news hasn't got out yet. Interesting, because it's coming. Stephanie McMahon is working an unofficial backstage role where she works with talent relations, particularly for the women's side of the WWE. Chris says, I'm guessing if Jacob Fatu's injury is legit, The SmackDown tag belts will probably be defended under Freebird rules. Yeah, any member of the Bloodline can make that happen. Spider-Boss confirms Fightful did say Jacob Fatu's injury is a work. They didn't actually say that. Fightful did what, unfortunately, a lot of people do, where they essentially said, might be a work, might not be a work. Oh, thank you, Ori. Appreciate you. That's lovely. Amari says, do you think we'll see Roman Reigns tonight? I do not. I think they'll wait till SmackDown. Kevin says, I can see SmackDown Women's Championship being defended at the Batch of Berlin pay-per-view, and the next one being Bad Blood, Raw Women's Champion Rhea versus Liv Morgan. True, I did not consider that crossover. I thought there was a Saudi Arabia show in September. Am I making that up? Never can tell, never can tell. My brain does things. Dave Meltzer's had a little bit of a meltdown today, saying some very interesting things about Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns and why Roman's back. One of the things that really wound me up is Dave Meltzer's comments about Roman Reigns' weight. This is the same outlet and the same people who really deep dived into the leukemia. And thus it makes me uncomfortable when they focus on physical appearance. Just makes me uncomfortable. Just want to point that out. Because it's one of many little meltdowns that Dave Meltzer has been having recently when it comes to wrestling news. The guy can still be, at times, impossible to argue with. Lately, not so much. We still have a bit of news to share. We're going to be talking about the Joe Gacy interview, Nia Jax winning gold, and of course why this Sami Zayn Braun Breaker match was as short as it was. We have 154 people watching, 95 likes, 5 more gets us to 100. I want to take this opportunity to mention a couple of things. Firstly, as I've mentioned already, there will not be a spoiler warning this Friday. I'm at a wedding. I will not be able to be involved. We will see WTF Wrestling and PLE Wednesdays pre-recorded, ready for that, so you should still get a WTF Wrestling. If it doesn't happen, it's because essentially I've just run completely out of time. But the plan is to record PLE Wednesdays tomorrow and record WTF on Wednesday, and then go from there. After that, a bit more news. I want to say a thank you to everyone who watched over the course of SummerSlam weekend. We had more than 14,000 views over SummerSlam weekend, and when you consider that the intention was to try and hit the million in one day, that's 1.4% of it. How well we're going to do in 365. It seems difficult at this point in time to reach that million. It seems unlikely because we'd have to regularly get like 4,000 views per day. But we're on a bit of a roll at the moment, and some of my shorts are doing very well right now. So, please do continue to engage with the shorts if you watch them. And also, another way in which we're doing very well, even though we're not getting views from it technically, is on the community page, where we are doing wrestling quizzes, and I hope people are enjoying them. I'm really proud of the most recent quiz name, and I'd love to get your responses to this. So a bit of trivia for you. Which of the following Samoans named Joe goes by the ring name Samoa Joe? Is it Liti Joseph Anoi, Nufalau Joel Sino, or Joseph Yokozuna Fatu? I apologise for any incorrect pronunciation there. But you can either vote, you can answer on the community page. I did put a poll up on Twitter that you may enjoy covering that. Or, of course, you can drop it in the chat right now and let me know what you think. I can tell you that, interestingly, on the Twitter side, there are 102 votes. 2 different entries have 10.8% of those votes, so it's fairly split down the people who don't actually know for certain. Always nice to see. Always nice to see. Ken says, hey Tom, do you think Liv stays near the top of the card after losing the title? Yes, I do. She's made now. Spider-Boss says, what was the point of having Blair Davenport attacking Bianca and Jade on last SmackDown? To try and give them new feuds to work with. Razar says, I got some questions about SmackDown division, but I need you to get to the news about Nia first. So close, mate. So close. Amhari says, poor Dave. Red wine. Thank you, Ed. It's November. Crown Jewel. Gotcha. Craig says, do you think Nikki Cross goes after Dakota Kai eventually? I do. There are definitely teasers of that, and I'm excited to see that in action. I think Nikki Cross needs to get back in the ring, though she is apparently intending to work in a mask. Joe says, do you know who LA Knight? Yes, I'm aware of him. He's LA Knight. Jason says, I think it's Basher Berlin, then Bad Blood. Thanks for the corrections, guys. I genuinely appreciate it. Moxie says, maybe we get a Judgment Day Civil War at War Games. Maybe. Nathan says, what do you think of Arn Anderson being included last night? Is it a one-off? I'd love to see him as Cody's manager, maybe reform the Four Horsemen. It is a one-off, though it was fairly well received, and if it continues to be well received, I would imagine we're going to see more appearances. Spider-Man said, do you think Britt Baker will be back in TV before All In? Yeah. Yeah, she's her suspension has been served. Kevin, I'm not getting married. I'm going to a wedding. I'm not getting married. Oh, Joe says, do you know LA Knight's first defense is going to be against? I don't, actually. Jason says, I enjoy your trivia questions. Good to know. I've been putting a bit more effort into them since moving into the new house, and honestly, I'm excited by it. I think people are really getting into them. And you can see, if I do them day by day, the views on the community page go up and up and up. We've been getting regularly 500-600 views on the community page, which is pretty good. And it means that people who watch videos and engage with the community page posts are going to be fed a steady stream of my videos. Thank you for the source, Ed. Amari said, did you see the Roman Reigns? Yes, I did. Return video on YouTube has done 3.4 million views in a day. Yeah, and a lot of those views actually ended up being driven straight to my channel because I've already reported it was happening. We do have people paying attention here and being very clever to not actually just try and pronounce it. Michael says, if Anna Jay going to Stardom, do you think other AEW girls spend time in Stardom? Yes. Bailey says, Dave Meltzer seems less and less relevant as his WWE sources have left the company and the flood of social media channels makes his platform less impactful. Yeah, the newsletter is old hat, shall we say. Jason says, I got it wrong on YouTube. Sorry to hear it, mate. So far, everyone suggesting the second one is 100% correct. Sai says, I can't imagine Jacob Fatu's injury as a work. Made a little sense for Roman to come out when Cody Solo was one-on-one, so I guess Jacob had to miss his spot and they called an audible. We will have to wait and see on that one. I'm confused by the idea that he was intentionally selling. They don't tend to keep people apart in that manner, but stranger things have happened. Spider-Boss says, Dave Meltzer knows about wrestling history, but always misses when he's reporting news. One says, speaking of Dave Meltzer, Tom, he too now is saying Mercedes money could be the reason Sammy Guevara is in Ring of Honor. Meltzer seems to hate money with his no news reports. There is no connection between Mercedes money and Sammy Guevara being in Ring of Honor. None whatsoever. People keep blaming her for absolutely no reason. Pete says, my definitive answer is either a B or a C. I win. Juan says, mission accomplished, and Juan is absolutely right. We have now hit 101 likes. Thank you very kindly for that. This does translate to more viewers. As we've had more likes, we peaked at 161 viewers. As we've had more likes, we've had 823 views, which is almost triple what we usually have by this point of the show. So, these likes do have an impact. In addition, the chat rate, there's been quite a few people really helping to boost that chat rate recently. Joe, for example, is asking everyone how they are. That's boosting the chat rate, and anyone who responds to him is boosting the chat rate. So thank you, Joe. I can see the chat rate actually peaked at 18 in a minute when I was asked about buffering and the stream freezing, because you guys were so keen to make sure I knew that there wasn't a problem on your side that the chat rate went boom. Little things go a long, long way. Michael says, do you think the Wyatts will win tonight? Yes, I do. Kervin says, do you think SummerSlam this year is the greatest of all time? Difficult. I did enjoy SummerSlam 98. It was the first one I ever watched though, so guilty. Amari says, when will the wise man return? When they're ready to have him. He's taking an extended break and that's okay. Michael says, Mercedes and Sammy talked things through hours after the recording of Sammy on the podcast went out. That was 4 years ago. Why can't everyone not name Mercedes and Sammy? Get over it. Yeah. My general rule is, if Mercedes has decided to move on, you need to follow her lead. You weren't wronged. She was. She decided to mend bridges. Hey Aaron, appreciate that. Amari said, do you think this is a possibility when The Rock comes back into the Bloodline storyline? He'll be the wise man for Solo. No, The Rock wants to fight. The wise man does not fight. Joe Gacy is next up to have an interview as part of the Wyatt 6 VHS empire. And as I've said previously, watch the pig, because this is going to be an interesting one. The next phase when it comes to that Wyatt 6 and Uncle Howdy is predicated on Joe Gacy. So his reasons for being in this group are going to be very important, and you need to keep an eye on this one. He will also be debuting tonight on the main roster as part of a 6-man tag match. Now, there are some concerns here, particularly concerns from the WWE about normalising the Wyatt 6 in ring as simple wrestlers compared to the spiritual, supernatural element that Bray Wyatt used to bring. This is also the area in which Bray Wyatt himself used to get kind of stuck. He could talk a big game, but when he stepped into the ring, it kind of fell apart. That said, Bo Dallas is said to be married to the idea of the circus freaks concept, which means that the supernatural element is gone for good. Joe Gacy is not married to it in quite the same degree. Don't forget, Joe Gacy is the next Bray Wyatt. I imagine there will be references to that tonight in one way or another. Danielle says, any update on Ricochet? There is no update. Ricochet's gone. And Spider-Boss says, follow the pig. Follow the pig. We need to make a meme of that. We need to make some graphics or something. Nia Jax won gold at SummerSlam with a view to Charlotte Flair's impending return. There is a lack of top quality heels in the women's division of SmackDown at the moment, so they needed a heel to be champion so that she could work with multiple faces. Charlotte Flair is planned to return as a face, and someone as widely hated as Nia Jax seems to be the perfect opponent, though there is a lot more respect for Nia Jax at the moment than there used to be. Bayley also needed a new story. She hasn't really had one since winning at WrestleMania. There's confidence as well. The pairing Bayley and Charlotte up against Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton is good for all parties. Essentially keeping Bayley on top, making sure Charlotte is cheered, and also getting Tiffany Stratton into the spotlight. Getting Tiffany Stratton into the spotlight is also one of the reasons that Nia Jax has won the championship. The Nia Jax-Tiffany Stratton partnership also makes worthwhile opponents for Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill, as Nia Jax can be viewed as a success story for Cargill to follow. Because there aren't enough heels, they need to build new ones fast. Tiffany Stratton is the obvious choice to really be elevated, so that's what they're doing. But they also need people who can work with their top talent. Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill as a tag team, and also eventually Bayley and Charlotte Flair seem like a tag team run is in their future as well. A Tiffany Stratton versus Charlotte Flair singles match is indeed being discussed. Kervin says, I cannot wait for The Rock to return on SmackDown. One reason, longer segment, Triple H. The Rock did have very long segments. I think that's what you're going for. Ishii says, will they play Shatter tonight in full? I believe that's likely, but I can't guarantee it. Spider-Boss says, I love that Mercedes answered back to the comments made by Jonathan Coachman. Mercedes said she's tired of this old wrestling vets talking about her. Yeah, she's sick of the media, and if you want to know why, check out my WTF Wrestling video on the subject. She don't like them. Clyde says, just stop by to leave a like. We'll watch later at my second job. Until then, much love, Tom, and all in the chat. Enjoy Raw tonight, everyone. Thank you, Clyde. I appreciate you. Jason says, SmackDown could use Roxanne Perez as a heel. I agree. Sean says, your thoughts on Tiffany's new briefcase? I reported that it was going to happen at Money in the Bank. The Barbie briefcase is in full display. Amari says, I prefer Bayley Witches on the chase for a title. Juan says, will we see face Charlotte Flair connect this time? Last time she came back, she turned heel after 3 weeks when the crowd turned on her. That didn't happen. She was face for the entirety of her last run. Team Money says, do you personally like where all the Wyatt 6 stuff is going? And do you foresee cool stuff from the group? I do see cool stuff coming. I like what I'm seeing so far. I like that they're taking their time with it. But let's be fair, I have a little bit more information about it than you guys do. Well, unless you've watched WTF Wrestling from last week about the Wyatt 6. Kervin, WWE disagree as regards Charlotte and the babyface. Razar says, what was going on with Bayley's title reign? Felt like the least important person in the division as champ What happened to Bayley and Naomi seemed like they were building to something. Bayley and Naomi were attempting to build to something, the WWE was not involved, and when the WWE got involved, they stopped being able to build to something. As regards the title reign, she just wasn't considered important enough to get the attention that Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley got. So they essentially gave other people a spot and then ran out of time. Spider-Boss says some tag team action coming to SmackDown. Since Blair Davenport joined Alba and Isla Dawn, I think Naomi probably will join Bianca and Jade once again. Chris says Bayley and Michin should team up and go after the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. Bayley says Charlotte and Bayley haven't worked as a team since when? NXT? I think it was NXT. And the last time they've actually tagged was a Survivor Series match way back when. Sean says, do you think WWE will continue the Charlotte-Shotzi tag team? No. Jason says, one point of thought, turning Bianca and Jade heel. They've been getting more disgruntled with the losses, so personally I see a heel turn coming. Me too. I think one of them will turn heel. I'm sort of leaning towards Bianca, personally. Finally, a little bit of news. Sami Zayn versus Bron Breakker, as Fightful have correctly reported, was expected to go a little longer, around 12 minutes. It wasn't cut short. You'll love this. It's just that Bron Breakker is said to have been a little bit excited, so they wrestled a higher tempo than they were expecting and missed a bit of the actual planned match. Nobody was upset. People enjoyed the match. Nobody's upset that Bron Breakker missed a spot or worked too fast, because Sami Zayn literally just worked faster to compensate. Everyone enjoyed it, so there is no heat on anyone. It's just worth mentioning. Amari said, do you have any news on the Women's Mid-Card Championships? Yes, they're called the Women's Tag Team Championships and they're already there. Spider-Boss said it doesn't make sense Triple H praises Bayley, but doesn't give her proper booking and TV time. He praises a lot of people. He praises Karrion Kross. You don't see much of him. Not with the quote-unquote proper booking. Michael says, does Naomi join Bianca and Jade against Blair, Kaylee Ray and Isla? Seems like the only way to really use Naomi at the moment. She's on sporadically at best. Ricky says, do you think Roman will be on SmackDown? Yes. And Thomas says, hi Tom, sorry I'm late. Do you know who is going to SmackDown? Nothing has been made official, but yes, I've seen the rumours that Jey Uso and Sami Zayn will be there. They are wanted for the Bloodline Civil War. CFC says, curious, will we see a singles run in the future for Dakota Kai or Kairi? The idea is that they've got about 8 to 10 years of both of them, so singles runs will undoubtedly be part of that. Mazar says, I liked that the Sami and Bron was shorter, to be honest. Not every match needs to be long. I agree with that. We have been live for 53 minutes. We have 107 likes. We have 920 views and peaked at 161 people watching. I want to say a massive thank you to all of you for joining me. We are going to wrap up there. We will not be live on Friday, but you'll still get PLE Wednesday and WTF Wrestling, and we'll be back next Monday. Until then, I've been Tom Colohue. You've been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.